Let me ask you something. When was the last time you were truly alone? I'm not talking about sitting in your room scrolling on your phone, texting 5 different people, or playing music loud enough to drown out your own thoughts. I mean alone in the deepest sense of the word. No notifications, no distractions, no one to impress, no one to perform for, just you and your own mind. Most people can't handle that silence. They start to panic when no one is texting them back, when the group chat goes dead, when they have no date lined up for the weekend. But here's the truth. Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists who ever lived, believed that this fear of solitude, this constant need to escape into other people, is exactly why most of us never become who we are meant to be. See, Jung didn't believe that life was about finding the one. He believed life was about finding yourself. And you cannot do that if you're constantly running away from your own company. So today we're going to talk about why staying single is not just okay. It's actually the most powerful thing you can do for yourself. This is not a video about hating relationships. This is about building yourself into a person who doesn't need one. And ironically, that's when the best relationships find you. Stay with me until the end, because if you understand what we're about to talk about, you will stop seeing singleness as a problem to fix and start seeing it as the most sacred season of your life. From the time we were kids, we were sold a story. Fairy tales, movies, music, they all taught us the same thing, that we are incomplete until we find the one. Think about Disney movies. How many of them end with the prince or princess finally finding love, and then the screen fades to black, as if life is now perfect forever? Even as adults, we get the same pressure. Family members asking, "So, when are you going to settle down?" Friends joking, "Bro, you're still single?" Social media constantly showing engagements, weddings, baby announcements, as if those milestones are the measure of a person's worth. And so we start to see ourselves as half-formed, like we are not truly whole until someone else chooses us. But Carl Jung would warn you, if you rush into a relationship because you feel incomplete, you won't be loving that person. You'll be using them to fill a void that only you can fill. And when they fail, because they will, you will resent them. This is why so many relationships turn toxic, not because the people are evil, but because they entered into them without first facing themselves. Imagine 2 broken mirrors trying to reflect each other. Each one distorts the image, and the more they try to fix it by holding on tighter, the worse it gets. That's what happens when 2 people who don't know themselves try to make each other whole. So staying single isn't a punishment. It's a gift. It is your chance to become a person who is whole on your own, so that when you eventually share your life with someone, it's not out of desperation, but out of strength. And this is where Jung's most important idea comes in, the process he called individuation. Carl Jung had one mission, to help people become who they truly are. He called this process individuation, and it's not a casual idea. This is the deep, difficult, soul-level work of becoming whole. Think of your psyche like a vast house. Most people spend their entire lives in just 2 rooms, the acceptable self and the public mask. Everything else, the shame, the fears, the anger, the unrealized potential, gets locked away in the basement. But here's the problem. Just because you locked it away doesn't mean it's gone. Those locked rooms still influence you. They leak into your behavior, your relationships, your choices. And if you don't face what's inside, you end up living life like a puppet, controlled by forces you don't understand. Jung's individuation process is about going into that basement. It's about finding those hidden rooms, opening them, and learning to integrate what's inside. Here's where staying single becomes so powerful. You cannot do this inner work when you are constantly distracted. You can't go into your psyche's basement if you are always entertaining guests in the living room. When you're single, you have space, you have quiet, you have time to actually sit with your thoughts, your memories, your triggers, and ask, why does this memory still hurt me? Why do I get jealous so easily? Why do I feel unworthy unless someone is texting me back? These questions are uncomfortable, yes, but they are the doorway to freedom. Most people never even get this far. They feel a little loneliness, panic, grab their phone, text someone, jump on a dating app, and boom, the cycle continues. But you can break the pattern. When you stay single long enough to face your shadow, you start to notice things. That anger you project on others, it's actually frustration with yourself. That constant need for validation, it's a deep insecurity left over from childhood. That fear of being abandoned, it's not about your last relationship, it's about the time you felt unseen as a kid. And suddenly, you're not just surviving loneliness, you're transforming it. Let me tell you something from my own life. There was a period, years ago, when I had just gotten out of a relationship that meant everything to me. I thought she was the one. When it ended, I felt like my entire identity collapsed. And my first instinct? Run! Find someone else as fast as possible so I didn't have to feel the pain. But something inside me said, no, sit with this. And for the first time, I stayed single. Not for weeks, not for months, but for over a year. That year was brutal. There were nights when I felt like I couldn't breathe from the silence. But it was also the most important year of my life. I started journaling. I started therapy. I started reading Jung's work. And that's when I understood something. I wasn't grieving the person I lost. I was grieving the version of myself I had hidden away to keep that relationship alive. And as I brought that version back, I became stronger, clearer, more grounded. So when I eventually entered my next relationship, I didn't come in desperate to be saved. I came in whole, and that changed everything. Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This is what being single allows you to do. You get to make your darkness conscious, instead of dumping it onto someone else. Here's how you can start right now. 1. Sit in silence daily, even just 10 minutes. No music, no phone. Just sit and notice what thoughts come up. Don't fight them, watch them. 2. Journal your triggers. Every time you feel jealous, angry, or insecure, write it down. Not just what happened, but why it got to you. 3. Face your fears directly. Write a list of what you're most afraid of losing. Then ask, who would I be if I lost this? This will show you what you've been attaching your identity to. This is not easy work, but it's the kind of work that transforms you from the inside out. And the more you do it, the more you start to enjoy your own company. There's a subtle but life-changing shift that happens during this process. At first, your time alone feels like punishment, like you're missing out, like everyone else is living life while you sit in silence. But as you do the work, something flips. Suddenly your solitude feels sacred. You begin to protect it. You no longer need constant noise. You no longer need someone to tell you you're enough, because you feel enough deep in your bones. This is the point where your friends start saying, you seem different, calmer, more confident. And you know what changed? You met yourself, and you stopped running. There is a crucial shift you must make if you want to master this season of life. You must learn to turn your loneliness into aloneness. And yes, there's a difference. Loneliness is a craving. It's the restless urge to fill the silence with someone, anyone. It feels heavy, suffocating, desperate. Aloneness, on the other hand, is a kind of power. It is when you sit in the same silence, but instead of being restless, you feel still. Instead of feeling small, you feel expansive. Instead of craving someone to distract you, you start enjoying your own company. This is not just philosophy, it's neuroscience. When you first cut yourself off from constant stimulation, the texts, the DMs, the dopamine hits, your brain panics. It thinks something is wrong. It starts screaming. Reach out to someone. Find a distraction. Go back to what's familiar. But if you resist, if you sit with that discomfort, something amazing happens. Your brain recalibrates. It starts producing dopamine in response to simpler things. A quiet morning, a good book, a long walk. This is the birth of aloneness, and it's addictive in the best possible way. Picture this. You walk into a coffee shop alone. No phone in your hand, no friend waiting for you. No rush to leave. You just sit there, present. At first it's awkward. You feel people might be looking at you, wondering why you're by yourself. But after 10 minutes, something flips. You notice the smell of the coffee. You notice the sound of cups clinking. You notice your thoughts slowing down. You start to feel good. This is the test I give people when they say they can't stand being single.
Can you sit in a public space alone and feel whole?
If you can, you are on your way to real freedom. Here's the irony. The moment you no longer need a relationship is the moment you become most attractive. Why? Because neediness is repulsive. When you radiate desperation, even subconsciously, people can sense it. They feel you're not choosing them, you're clinging to them. And no one wants to be clung to. But when you become comfortable in your own skin, when your life feels full, when you're genuinely happy alone, you become magnetic. You walk into a room differently. Your energy says, I am whole. I am not looking for someone to fix me. And that energy is irresistible. Jung would say that this is when you've integrated part of your shadow, the part of you that once believed you were less than, without someone else. Now you know better. You are no longer half a person searching for your missing piece. You are a whole person. and you are open to sharing your wholeness with someone equally whole. This is why high-value people are drawn to others who are comfortable alone. They know that if you love yourself, you won't drain them, you won't make them responsible for your happiness, and you won't settle for dysfunction. Okay, let's get practical. If staying single is going to be a season of transformation, you need to build what I call an inner life, a life so rich and fulfilling that no relationship can make or break you. Here's how. 1. Develop deep hobbies. Don't just scroll TikTok or binge Netflix. Learn something that challenges you. Play an instrument, learn a language, train in a martial art, write, paint, lift. Build something that makes you proud when no one is watching. 2. Strengthen your body. Jung believed the psyche and the body are connected. When you build physical strength, you also build psychological resilience. Lift weights, run. Move your body like it was designed to move. 3. Create meaningful rituals. Don't let your days blur together. Light a candle when you journal. Have a sacred morning routine. Make solitude feel intentional, almost ceremonial. 4. Curate your relationships. Being single doesn't mean being isolated. Surround yourself with friends who challenge you to grow, who call you out when you slip, who respect your journey. 5. Do one scary thing every week. If being alone scares you, lean into it. Go to a movie alone. Travel solo. Take yourself on a date. Prove to yourself that you are enough company for yourself. Here's the trap you must avoid. Don't turn your singleness into a prison. Don't use it as an excuse to hide from life. The goal here is not to isolate forever. The goal is to build yourself into someone so whole, so strong, that when you do choose a relationship, it is a true choice, not a desperate escape from loneliness. Remember, Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. When you stay single and do this work, you stop being a victim of fate. You start becoming the architect of your future. You've done the inner work. You've sat in silence. You've journaled. You've started to enjoy your own company. Now it's time for the next step, what I call the shadow test. Here's the challenge. For the next 90 days, no dating apps, no casual flings, no late night just checking in texts to your ex, no distractions that pull you back into the old patterns. For 90 days, you are going to face yourself completely. At first, it will feel like withdrawal. You'll crave the dopamine hit of a notification. You'll feel restless. You'll be tempted to reach out to someone, anyone, just to feel wanted. But this is where the real growth happens. When you feel that urge, don't fight it. Observe it. Ask yourself, what am I trying not to feel right now? Why am I afraid of this silence? What would happen if I just sat here and let the feeling pass? You'll start to notice that what you were running from was never the loneliness. It was yourself. And once you realize that, you'll discover something extraordinary. You were never actually lonely. You were just disconnected from who you really are. Here's what typically happens during this 90-day shadow test. Weeks through the resistance phase. You feel restless, irritable, anxious. Your brain is still wired for constant stimulation. This is where most people quit. Weeks 4 to 6, the breakthrough phase. The silence starts to feel less heavy. You start noticing your own thoughts, your dreams, your creativity coming alive. Week 7 to 9, the magnetic phase. You start to radiate calm confidence. People notice. You start attracting higher quality friendships, opportunities, even romantic attention, without chasing it. Weeks 10-13, the sovereign phase. You reach a point where you no longer crave validation. You are fully comfortable with yourself. This is where you've integrated your shadow, and you become truly unshakable. Carl Jung once said, "A man who is not dangerous is not a complete man." What he meant was this: you must integrate your darker impulses, your aggression, your ambition, your shadow, so they work for you, not against you. Most people either suppress their darkness, becoming weak, passive, resentful, or they let it control them, becoming reckless, destructive, abusive. But when you stay single and face your shadow, you learn to hold that darkness without letting it consume you. You learn to express anger without being cruel. You learn to pursue ambition without stepping on others. You learn to be assertive without being arrogant. This is what makes you dangerous, because now you are no longer naive. You're no longer easily manipulated. You know your weaknesses, and you own them. When you walk into a room like this, people feel it. They sense that you are calm, centered, and not to be played with. And ironically, this is when you become most loving, because when your shadow is integrated, you no longer project it onto others. You no longer blame them for what you refuse to face in yourself. This is the final stage of staying single the right way. You emerge as someone unshakable, You've built your inner life. You've faced your shadow. You've proven that you can handle solitude without falling apart. Now you can re-enter the world of relationships as a different person. You no longer chase. If someone doesn't respect your time, you walk away. You no longer cling. If someone leaves, you don't crumble. You stay grounded. You no longer settle. You only accept relationships that add to your life, not ones that drain it. This is what Carl Jung meant when he said that wholeness, not happiness, is the goal of life. Because here's the truth. When you become whole, happiness stops being something you chase. It becomes something you carry with you wherever you go. I've seen this transformation happen countless times. With myself, with friends, with clients I've mentored over the years. The ones who embraced singleness, who used it to go deep, who faced their fears head on. They came out the other side unstoppable. And every single one of them said the same thing. I thought being single was the problem, but it was the solution all along. Imagine this. It's late at night. You're sitting in your room. No notifications, no noise, just you and your thoughts. And for the first time, you feel calm, not bored, not anxious, not lonely, calm. You realize that the war inside you is over. The voices that used to scream for attention are now just whispers. You smile to yourself because you finally understand. This is what Carl Jung meant when he said, loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. And now you can finally communicate, not just with others, but with yourself. This is the rebirth moment, when you stop running from life and start walking toward it.